Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Tulsa. Okay. I'm Attorney Ben Crump, and on behalf of the Terence Crutcher Foundation, and Justice for Greenwood, we are very proud to have this panel discussion here with you today. What does Black Lives Matter look like in the future if Black lives really matter? So often we have said Black Lives Matter to America, but we still don't know if they hear us. So today, we're going to speak truth to power by some of the people who have most been affected by America's refusal to acknowledge Black Lives Matter. Can y'all join me in saying, Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Thank you. Before we begin our discussion, Dr. Tiffany Crutcher is going to join us, as well as some of her other family members. She just finished a luncheon with the survivors. I will say this, just to put it in proper context before we hear from these acclaimed individuals. It is so important that we're here today to be part of this commemoration of the 100-year remembrance of the Black Wall Street Massacre. Because we have to understand that this injustice was probably the greatest injustice of our people other than slavery when you put it in context. I mean, when you think about Terence Crutcher or George Floyd or Botham Jean or Breonna Taylor or Ronald Green, any of the individuals that have been killed by police violence, multiply that by 100 times, and that's what you will get when you think about the Black Wall Street Massacre. I mean, not only did it destroy the family and the community and the culture in 1921, it has had an impact on Black America that has lasted to 2021. We're here to speak truth to power. I mean, it was a Holocaust situation for Black America. And so that's why it's important that we are here today, because like our Jewish brothers and sisters say, never forget, never again. Well, we come here today in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 100 years later, to make sure our children know and our children unborn know, never forget and never again. I'd like to acknowledge Michael Skolnick from New York, a young man who's been covering these matters for 15 years now. Thank you for using your influence to help bring attention and awareness to this with many others. So without further ado, we want to have a conversation. We'll ask the panelists just 3 questions, and then if time will permit, we will take a few questions from the audience. Is that okay? All right, we got the rules. So I will introduce everyone first, and then we will go to the first question. I am so proud of this young man, not just because he's my fraternity brother, but because he's an incredible lawyer and an incredible activist, and soon to be the next Attorney General of the state of Texas, and that is Attorney Lee Merritt. I have had the honor of working with him on the case of Botham Jean, which was one of the first times in American history where a white policewoman was convicted of first-degree murder for killing a black man. So him, Darrell Washington, I know he's working on Ronald Green case now. He's working on Atiana Jefferson. He is a bad brother when he go in the courtroom to stand up for us. So that is Lee Merritt. Now, this next young man, you all may recognize, ladies. He is an award-winning actor, but more importantly, he is a brother who do not think it robbery to use his influence to try to give a voice to the voiceless. I will never forget what Harry Belafonte told Trayvon Martin's parents and us at the NAACP Image Awards. What good is it having influence if you don't use it when it matters most? Where Kendrick Sampson always uses his influence when it matters most, when it matters to our people, when it matters to our community, and when it matters to our children's future. He is the co-founder of Build Power. Give it up for the great actor, Kendrick Sampson. And I am sure many of you recognize this next queen that is on the stage. She hails here from Tulsa, Oklahoma. You all have heard of the tragic case of her brother, Joshua Barrett, who was killed on June 8, 2017 by the Tulsa police officer while he was experiencing a mental health crisis. He was shot 5 times. I don't know why it is, Lee, that when black people are having a mental health crisis and we need a helping hand, we get bullets. Well, this sister, like many of the sisters of the movement, has turned their pain into purpose. She has started the foundation, Don't Hurt Them, Help Them. Please give it up for Naisha Barrett Hall. And then finally, without further ado, this next queen is a force of nature. She comes from St. Lucia. Many of you have heard about the tragic killing of her brother, who is, it's still just unbelievable when you think about it. They kill us for driving while black, shopping while black, banking while black. But her brother was literally killed for living while black. I mean, he was in his own apartment, minding his own business, watching his own television, eating a bowl of ice cream, when a white policewoman, Amber Geiger, mistakenly came in the wrong apartment, shot and killed him, and then said self-defense. Well, you heard about what happened with Amber Geiger. She was convicted of first-degree murder. I don't think that's been done more than 10 times in American history of a white police officer being convicted of first-degree murder. She has never stopped just with that conviction. She has founded and is the president of the Botham Jean Foundation. They have an annual foundation banquet in Dallas, Texas. And it is on September 6, 2018. Not only did she start the Botham Jones Foundation with Dr. Tiffany Crutcher and others, she also founded a national organization called Sisters of the Movement, because many times we think only about mother and father, but these individuals who were taken from this earth in unbelievable ways far too soon also have siblings. And so it was her vision to be able to give purpose to the siblings as well, with creating the Sisters of the Movement, and she has been advocating in state legislatures and the United States Congress. Give it up for Alyssa Finley. So now that we gave everybody their propers, we're going to have the first question, and we'll go down the road this way, and then we'll take the second question and go the other way. The first question is real simple. To each of the panelists, what does Black Lives Matter? Well, before I do that, I want us to give a great round of applause for Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, your own native, a great leader, a force of nature, someone who has sacrificed so much for not only her family, but for this entire Tulsa community. Yeah. Yeah. North Tulsa. Thank you all. So the first question, and we'll start off with you, Attorney General.
Okay.
Okay. What does Black Lives Matter mean to you?
Before I get into my answer, I'm just going to ask you all to bear with me one more moment. As he did these beautiful introductions to everyone else, we, as often as we can, we want to give our brother his flowers. You mean so much to our community. You mean so much to us. Since I was a law student, we've been watching you stand on the front lines, and we're happy to be able to fight alongside you. Can you all give it up for Brother Ben Crump for me, please? All right, what does it mean? I'm just getting back from Louisiana. And 2 years ago in Louisiana, May 10th of 2019, a young man named Ronald Green was involved in a brief pursuit with law enforcement that ended when his vehicle came to a stop on an old country road near Monroe, Louisiana. That's in Union County Parish. During the course of his arrest, he suffered a cardiac incident and he passed away. His family was told that he died in a car accident. And the family went immediately, they left their home in Florida and drove to Louisiana to view his body. And they were told that his body had left Louisiana and was in a hospital in Arkansas. It was the first red flag. When they asked to see his body, they were told that they couldn't see it yet, that it would have to go through the initial autopsy. And after a couple of days, they were finally able to see the body of Ronald Green. And though they were told that he was in a car accident, they found his body covered with abrasions and bruises and scarring and dirt and blood from the top of his head really down to his feet. He had been repeatedly tased. He had been beaten with improvised brass knuckles. They used the handcuffs as brass knuckles. And the video of this assault was caught in high definition. It existed within the Louisiana policing apparatus. They knew that it happened. And they wrote in their reports and they told to the family that he died in a car accident anyway. And they made no mention of the brutal assault, the repeated electrocution, and the fact that he was in fact beat to death just 2 years ago. Someone's conscience got to them within the Louisiana State Trooper community, and they gradually began to leak out the videos of what actually happened to him. And it turned out that not only were the men, Officer Corey York, Officer James Clary, Officer Christopher Hollingsworth, who has since passed away, Officer Dakota DeMoss. Not only were they seen on that video brutalizing and killing Ronald Green as he begged for his life, as he told him, "I'm your brother, I'm sorry, I was just scared. I'm sorry I shouldn't have led you on this chase." But leadership within the state of Louisiana, from the state police to the supervisors, all the way up to the governor's office, participated in withholding that information from the public and obscuring the truth about what happened, the same way that we've seen them historically do here in Tulsa. Over the course of the last 3 weeks, all of that came out to the public. And we were upset about it. Some of you all heard about it, and there were protests. And there were phone calls made to the governor and to the attorney general. And we just left a protest where his mother and his sisters demanded that in light of this new information that they be held accountable. And they were promised that they should just trust the system. They were told that the United States government, the Department of Justice, would do a thorough review of everything, and maybe in a couple of more weeks, maybe in a month or two, there would be some form of criminal accountability for the officers involved. In other words, they treated Ronald Green's life like it just didn't matter. Anybody else killed on tape, and you know the individuals who are responsible, you know their addresses, you know their first, last name. These same men went on to hurt other people within the state of Louisiana. They still continue to collect taxpayer dollars. In the state of Louisiana, the people of Louisiana have not come to a standstill to say, no, Ronald Green's life mattered. It's the same message that I got as a young kid in South Central. Every once in a while on the block in Leimert Park, where I'm from, someone would die. It could be a drive-by, it could be little Latasha Harlan when I was a kid. It could be Rodney King, who wasn't killed, but he was beaten brutally. And then every once in a while, a person of Anglo-Saxon descent, someone with white skin, would come to my community and die. And then we knew as kids, somebody died on our block, and the block is hot. You can't go outside. You're not allowed to walk to 42nd Street Elementary anymore. The block is hot because somebody died, and there must be what? Accountability. And that's the reason I think for the existence, the purpose of the Black Lives Matter movement is our community will stop the same way the white community does and say, no, someone died, and there must be accountability because our lives matter. To me, that's what Black Lives Matter means.
Thank you, Attorney Merritt. Mr. Kendrick Sampson, same question. What does Black Lives Matter mean to you?
Personally, Black Lives Matter means my introduction into grassroots activism in 2015 and trying to figure out how I was gonna do and act and use whatever privilege I had to end police violence. And I had tried charity and different policy actions and such, and really wasn't actions that weren't thoroughly connected to and rooted in the liberation movement. And that's what Black Lives Matter is a continuation of the abolitionist movement of black folks who rose up to say, not another one. We're gonna continue what the Black Panthers did, what Angela Davis represented, what the Combahee River Collective represented, was people who said and knew that we are actually safer without police, that we are actually safer without prisons, that we are actually safer without the systems that were created to oppress us and were created to harm us and target us and kill us and torture us. That we do not need those systems, that we keep us safe. And the problem is, just like the massacre that happened here in Tulsa on Greenwood and the massacres that happened to our black people all over the United States, they continue to massacre us, killing at least 300 of us a year by law enforcement, and that's the ones that are reported, right? In the same way that they keep on doing that and trying to convince us that we need to reform those systems in order to be safe, we continue through the Black Lives Matter movement to say, no, those systems actually make us less safe, they target us, and they say that our lives don't matter. And we're about to prove to you how much we do matter. How much we know, no matter how much you tell us we don't, that we matter. And it's an intersectional movement, right? It's a movement that says, that's implied all Black lives matter, that we're looking at trans Black lives, that we're looking at queer Black lives, we're looking at Black women, we're looking at children, we're looking at those who are differently abled. And I would be, excuse my French, it'd be fucked up if I did not talk about one of my comrades here who've been in the streets hardcore all the time, every week, every single week. We had a protest every week after George Floyd was lynched in LA, led by Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, every single Wednesday. And they had been out there for years, and we'd come out together. And Ashley Simone here, who's interpreting for y'all, has been out in the streets every single week and continues to do it.
Thank you, Queen.
And founded Pro Bono ASL. Pro Bono ASL, they go around the country now providing interpretation, making sure that folks, and advocating, not just at these events, but advocating outside for our Black folks that are differently abled and people of color. So come on, Ashley! She be killing it, yeah! And they gave me a name. Yeah, Kendrick, you see that? They have to give you the name. The reason they gave me this name, like this, is because I always wear these shirts. So there's that.
They
But
said the women want you to take it off, but we ain't gonna go.
But yeah, that's what the Black Lives Matter movement means to me. It showed me what true radical community is, how we keep us safe, and helped me envision the future and what that future looks like without police, without prisons, without oppressive systems, where we actually are liberated and free, and that it has to be through an abolitionist lens. That's my shit. All right.
Thank you very much, Kendrick. And now for Naisha Burrell Hall. What does Black Lives Matter mean to you?
Black Lives Matter is an important view overall. I think that it should be taken in consideration more, not just when it's police brutality, not when it's things going on in the world, but just the everyday community. It's already hard enough dealing with things day to day with every different race, but you tend to see Black lives really not come together only when it's a lot of commotion and things going on in the world. Just simple things as even opening the door or even just greeting one of your brothers or sisters in the community. So we need to take in consideration that Black lives matter on every occasion, everyday lifestyle, not just when it's police brutality, not when it's just white on black, but what about the black on black? We need to change the view and the take on how we look at Black Lives Matter. We matter to each other first and foremost, and that's really not being heard in the United States and in the community. We want to get together when things happen and when things are not going in the way that we want them to go. But if a Black person calls a peaceful protest on a situation of mental health, you get 5 people to come out. But if you call a violence or a fight or something in the Black community, the whole neighborhood is out. So we really need to just change our view and take on what it means as a whole. We all matter in some type of way, and it's not just when something is going on wrong in the community. So we need to really take in consideration, stick together on a day-to-day basis, no matter what it is, what the situation is, show up, help, be the change that we want to see in the community. And that's what it means to me.
Thank you, Queen. Alyssa, what does Black Lives Matter mean to you?
I look at Black Lives Matter as a response. Over the years where a lot of we as Black people have been silent when we've been mistreated over and over, I look at it as, since the movement has started, it's a response to us just not taking it anymore. I look at it as we're here and we're here to stay. We're not going to be silent anymore. And like Naisha said, it's not just for police brutality, but it's for everything. It's in corporate America. It's for in the police system. It's just for everything. Our voices are now being heard, and we're not going to keep quiet about it. We're going to continue pressing forward. We're going to continue just, I don't want to say storming, but we're going to continue marching on because enough is enough. To me, that's what it means. Enough is enough, and we're not going anywhere.
Thank you, Alyssa. Kendrick recognized the queen who was on the stage interpreting. I just want to give a shout out to the brother providing security for us. I don't know his name, but if you would stand up, yeah, we always need all of us serving a role. We're in this together. So thank you, King. And our last panelist, I think, came over from the luncheon. Chief, we've asked, well, tell the people a little bit about you, sir, and then we will have you answer the question, what Black Lives Matter means to you.
My name is Chief Amushand. I'm the president of the African Ancestral Society, a descendant of Raymond Beard Sr., who survived the massacre of 1921, and I am an advocate for justice, for liberation, for freedom, for us receiving back our humanity, us being recognized as human beings again. When the question comes, what does Black Lives Matter mean to me? I'm puzzled almost, because how do you ask the oldest people on the planet why Black Lives Matter? Why don't you ask the father of gynecology, the so-called father of gynecology, why Black Lives Matter? Because some people have figured out and understand clearly why Black Lives Matter. And if you can't understand that we come from an original place, original source, then there are only lives. There are only human lives that matter. We shouldn't be in a position where we have to articulate to society why Black lives should matter, right? At what point, we've shown the whole world that all lives matter when we were on plantations nursing the children of our oppressor. Like, we've demonstrated to the ultimate degree why Black lives matter, even in the midst of a genocide, even in the midst of our Holocaust, even in the midst of every time we have to get on watch our brothers and our leaders on television trying to reserve their own emotion. Because I've watched Ben Crump, I've watched my beloved brother here, I've watched all of the people on this panel demonstrate why their Black life matter, why human life matters in such a way that, if anything, people should be looking up to us, not down on us. That's why it matters.
Thank you, Chief, for speaking truth to power. Now, starting with Alyssa, we want to talk about solutions for a minute. What should we do to make America know that Black lives matter? If there's one thing you think we should be doing, I know time won't let us go through the whole litany, but the most important thing you think we should be doing as a people to make America recognize Black Lives Matter?
I think one thing we should do is to not be silent, to keep the conversation going, especially, I know for myself, I work in corporate America, and Black Lives Matter is something we don't say because I work for a predominantly white organization. And in keeping with the theme, I decided to just not be silent anymore. I invited Ben Crump to speak for our Black History Month committee, and he tore the roof down. He asked me, what do you want me to say? And all I told him was, make them uncomfortable. Because the way I see it is, if white people are not uncomfortable with these conversations, then they're not going to look at it, they're not going to think about it, they're going to go about their day thinking, well, I'm not racist because I have a black friend. So that's why we need to keep having these conversations, because we need to show them that sometimes what you do is unacceptable to us. I know in Texas right now, they're talking about the Crown Act for how black women should wear their hair. I don't support that because I refuse to ask for permission. You don't need to tell me how I could wear my hair. It's mine. We don't have a Crown Act for white women on how they wear their hair, so don't bring one on me. I will leave it at that.
Now, thank you, Alyssa. It is so profound what Alyssa said. I never forget, to the young people out there, there's a great Creole who we have named Dr. Naeem Agbar, African-American psychologist. He said something so deep when I was president of the Black Student Union. We went and met with the president of the university, and then we came out and we were all smiling and shaking hands and so forth. And Dr. Agbar said, now if you go meet with your oppressor and you all come out happy as if nothing mattered, then you were not completely honest when you spoke to him. It's as Alyssa said, it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation because you are oppressing me. And if I don't speak truth to power when we have a chance, how will our people ever advance? So thank you, Alyssa, for sharing that truth. Ms. Naisha, what solution would you offer that our people should do to make America respect black lives?
The main thing is be the solution. Prove them wrong that we are not what they think we are, that we can overcome all things, that we have a voice, that we have knowledge, that we have education. Take the jacket off. We can't fit it of being stereotyped of being these people. So more than anything, be a part of the change. Be who you know you can be, and not who they think you are, who you know you are. So stand up for what's right. Keep moving. Don't let anybody put the stereotype of who we are, because we know that we're not that. We're bigger than any problem. We can overcome anything, and we will stand on that.
Thank you, Queen. Kendrick, tell the people what you can't always say on TV about how to make America respect us.
I like this. I don't know how to say her name, but Malaika Jabali. She says, actually addressing the material needs of black people would upend the entire capitalist system. So we're given representation and expected to be appeased by hyper-visibility instead. So when you look at like this new administration, the Biden administration, and it's more diverse. Diverse has almost become a curse word for me. But, you know, it's more diverse than any other administration. Of course it is. It's a white supremacist institution. Oh, y'all didn't want to clap about that? America is a white supremacist institution. We're occupying indigenous land right now. They stole resources from our community, from black folks, right? And our labor, and they're living and profiting off of it still today. It's not a mistake that there was a massacre in Tulsa after we got our shit together, right? Despite them extracting all of our resources, torturing and murdering us and enslaving us, we got our stuff together, got our own resources together, did pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, and then they bombed us, right? And then the survivor's descendant was killed by police here by the same slave catching system that reformed and renamed itself. So when we're talking about what we need to do to prove Black Lives Matter to them, right? We got to commit to abolition. We got to commit to a bad seed produces a bad tree. How many, I know y'all been to church. Some of y'all been to church, right? A bad seed produces a bad tree, produces bad fruit. A good seed produces a good tree, produces good fruit. Them bad seeds of slave catching will always be what they are. The police will always be what they are, right? Slave catchers. Prison system will always be slavery. Capitalism will always be an anti-Black economic system. So we have to uproot, we have to commit ourselves to organizing and uprooting those systems from the roots. And then in the Bible, it says, burn them roots. And plant new seeds that our communities actually need. And we don't have to wait to plant those seeds. We can build up the infrastructure for mental health care in our communities, right? We can build up non-traditional ways of healing each other, right? We have to organize, 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 and commit to abolition. That's how we get out of this. And we don't, here's the other thing, you said what I can't say on TV, I'll be saying it anyway. They just cut it out the interviews. But I'm be frank with y'all, I'm tired of the word peaceful protest. I gave up on that a long time ago. You can't kill us constantly and be like, you know what? I don't like the way you're responding to this. We should be peaceful. Malcolm X said, I'm nonviolent with you as long as you nonviolent with me. Trust and believe, they killed one of mine. Just saying. So we have to commit to staying in the streets, organizing every single way we possibly can, infiltrating those institutions and dismantling them from the inside, from the outside on the streets, making sure we organize each other, and most importantly, recognizing that we keep us safe. So we have to care for each other and have grace in knowing that even in our interpersonal conflicts in our community, it comes from these systems that have infiltrated our communities and turned us against each other. Right. I'll shut up.
Thank you, Kendrick. And, you know, he's not here. Kendrick said something profound. I think we should recognize Attorney DeMario Solomon Simmons, a great lawyer here in Tulsa who's leading the effort for justice for Greenwood, because he and Dr. Crutcher raised $400,000 to give $100,000 to each one of those survivors. And I thought that was an incredible example of self-fulfillment, self-uplifting prophecy that we're demanding reparations, but also we're going to take care of our own, to mirror what Kendrick was saying. Now, as we come to another great attorney who is doing something that is quite profound, because oftentimes we say we need the people on the street to go get further involved in the leadership of our communities. And Lee Merritt has actually taken this literally. He has made the decision to leave his comfort zone of being out there on the front line with the activists and I've watched his maturation over the years, because he was off the chain back in the day. But now this brother is running for Attorney General of the state of Texas, and when he's successful, he will be the first African American Attorney General. So Lee, what thing most importantly, because I know time is getting short, do you feel we need to do to make America respect black life?
We've had such substantive remarks from our brothers and our sisters that I'm going to give what probably feels simplified, a simplified answer, but I'll explain why I'm giving it before I say what it is. It has something to do with birth order. I was born in South Central LA, the third of 3 boys, and a sister came 10 years later. My mom was 16 when she had my brother. My earliest memories of my dad was in incarceration. And I was raised in a gang culture. You know, my father's rolling 60s Crip and everybody around me bang. And, you know, that's an environment that a lot of people don't survive. The reason I was able to thrive and do really well is because I was a little brother, right? And I had 2 brothers who are 6'5" and 6'7", and they don't look exactly like the kind of guys that you want to run up on a general basis. And so I felt pretty comfortable in my skin my entire life. I felt like I could do what I wanted to do. I could say what I wanted to say, and I was protected because I had people who radically loved me. They weren't always, you know, the most resourced or the most articulate, but I wouldn't cross me, right? Because I had my big brothers there, and they loved me. My family loved me. My community loved me. I learned this from Nipsey Hussle. My hood loved me, and they would protect me, right? I think that's the answer. We have to radically love each other. And when we start saying words like love, people feel like that's soft. No, we don't need to love each other. We need to die for each other. Well, why don't we live for each other, right? Like, that is love, right? And I think if we had this, you know, the Bible says you should know them, but you should know followers of Christ by the love that they have for each other. I think if we start to look at each other and we go out of our way, anytime people try to put their mouth on Brother Ben Crump, or when they put their mouth on your brother, on the brother of Botham Jean, or your brother when they try to attack him and say, well, you know, what else were the police supposed to do when Kendrick goes too far? Even if we disagree with Kendrick, like, well, yeah, maybe he did go too far. In public, that's my brother. You keep your mouth off of him, right?
Amen.
And I think if we begin to radically love and protect each other, then all the plans, these well-laid plans, because every time we fail as a people, every time we fail as a movement, is because we betrayed each other. Because whoever the hyperbole they are, our enemies, are not strong enough to stop us. They've mentally conditioned us to stop each other by this myth of lack of resources and lack of opportunity. Well, if Kendrick get on, I guess I can't get on. Or if Ben take all the cases, what? You know, the fact that there are so many cases for us to have to fight over.
Every week.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to just say love and have a kumbaya moment, but really love each other to the point where, just like family, we're family in here. And when they killed Ronald Green, I took it so personally. When they killed Botham Jean, I took it personally. When they killed our brother George Floyd and he cried out to us, we take it personally. And when you take it personally, you can't move on. You simply can't move on. And so a lot of people felt like we had a George Floyd year, right? But the truth is, we had a George Floyd moment, and we must continue to fight the way we fought for George, for Ronald Green. We have to continue to fight for a Tatiana Jefferson. We have to continue to fight for Sean Monterosa and Sean Taylor and so many names. Each one is like our brother and our sister. And this is the last thing I'll say, and I'll talk to the keypad wars, the social media wars. I hear more often than not people who are understandably frustrated by this occurring over and over again, and they say, man, if that was my son, if that was my brother, then they tell us what they would do when they're lying. Because if it were, that is your brother, that is your sister, and if you love them, you fight right now, not later.
Thank you, Attorney General. And it is really deep, because what Lee is articulating is something that's not very popular And I know, because everybody who knows me, I end every conversation with, I love you, brother, or I love you, sister. And people sometimes say, man, you use that word too loosely. I say, nah, we need to tell each other we love each other more in the black community. I mean, we have to let one another know that we love each other, because America sure ain't saying they love us. If they ain't gonna say it and we ain't gonna say it, how are our children gonna know who love us? And so that's profound what the Attorney General was saying. The other thing I would say is, you know, they try to sanctize Martin Luther King, but you have to remember, when he was out here where Kendrick was at, America didn't love Martin Luther King. In fact, he was the most hated man in America. It's amazing how this revisionist history has happened. But one of the things you could not ever say about Martin Luther King was that he put forth hate on anybody. He radically loved everybody. I mean, and that was in every example, even when he stood up against America on the Vietnam War. He said, I'm doing it out of great concern because I'm disappointed. I couldn't be disappointed if I didn't love you, if I didn't care about you. So, Lee, thank you for that profound point of saying we need to have radical love for one another in the black community. Chief, you know, you got the easy job because you got to hear everybody else answer. But I know you're going to say something that could be easy or that could be hard, because I know you want to be an original and not duplicate anything. So, no pressure here. But what do you think is the most important solution that you could articulate for the Tulsa community and all America who's assembled here watching about how to make America respect black lives? And before you do that, I do want to I think Color of Change is screaming live, and I saw Rashad, the executive director of Color of Change, walk in. Is he still here? Well, let's still give that brother his flowers, his love. Color of Change do great work for our community. Chief, without further ado.
Well, one thing I'll say is we don't compete with each other, we complete each other. All right? So I'll say that first. I'm actually glad I was last to speak, because one thing I love to say, and people who know me know I say this a lot, there are only two human emotions, love and fear. That's it. Everything else branches off of love or branches off of fear. So we know we do love each other. We're the only people in America, when there's an incident where it's black on black crime, we're the only people who have an anti-violence protest or anti-violence rally. You don't see no other community do that. Regardless of ethnicity, we do that. Because through our trauma, we still love each other. America fears us. They fear this mindset, this collective body we have here, total, absolute fear. That's why we have to love each other. So in loving each other, you have to be what you seek. 2 people's lives I saved in 2020. One had a mental condition, looking through a trash can, a sister in the middle of the heat, looking through a recycle bin, trying to get some clothes. Police rolled up on her. I said, hey, what's going on? Well, we got a call from the store owner. Let me deal with that. Right? Let me deal with that. Because she was hot. Emotionally hot and physically hot. Not a good combination. Right? Another brother down the street attacks another brother, and he on drugs. So I make it my business to say, in my community, I am the authority. I have to be the authority. We have to take control, because when you take control, you can dictate. When Mr. Barre was killed in our community, I asked our current police chief, can you recite me the code, the policy on what to do when a member of our community has a mental crisis? If you can't recite the code as a captain, how can you enforce it? That's why I say they fear us. We just have to keep loving us and manifest it through action. That's how we show them that our life matter. That's how we show the world that our life matter, because we see it, but we so beat down, we don't acknowledge it when it happens.
Wow. Thank you, Chief. Final question for the panelists, and I'm gonna do my best Oprah, because I'm gonna mess with them a little bit. But we're gonna be able to take possibly 4 or 5 questions. If you have questions, be ready to stand up and ask them to an individual specifically if you can, because time is of the essence. Starting with you, Chief, we're going to come around the panel, and I know specifically Naisha and Alyssa are going to. We can't take any audience questions? Okay, all right, we got to do rapid fire. We might not be able to take audience questions. Chief, if you could say something to Terence Crutcher about where we're at in America today, or where we're at as a community today, what would you tell him as he looks down from heaven?
I would say thank you so much, because you and your life sacrifice has manifested more than most people have done in their whole entire lived life. That makes him a spiritual legend. That's how you make saints, right? In our tradition, in African tradition, that's how you become deified into sainthood. So we look at people like Terence Crutcher. I look at him now. I hear it. I can feel him now. I have chills behind my coat sleeves. Terence Crutcher, thank you for your sacrifice. It won't be in vain.
Thank you, Chief. Lee Merritt, in 1 minute, if you could tell Atiana Jefferson something, what would you tell her?
So Tatiana's sisters called her on site because she was the fighter among them, right? And she was super smart, and she graduated at Xavier near the top of her class, and she should have been getting into medicine when she was killed playing video games with her nephew instead. I hate to borrow a line from antiquity, but what you do in life echoes through eternity. And so the way she lived her life, the example that she set for little Zion and for her family, and she was a rose who grew from concrete. Like so many of us, we inherit that. So it's important that we learn, and I go to almost a funeral a week because that's how bad it is out here. It's important that we learn about the people behind the hashtag and borrow from that energy, because that force, that life force, is our inheritance.
Thank you, Counselor. Kendrick, man, if you could tell George Floyd something, what would you say to him?
Well, my Houston brother, hometown, H-Town, he's from the Trey.
Reward.
Yeah. I would just say we're going to call your murder, your lynching, what it was. You were taken from us too early. Now you are with the ancestors, and you're behind us every step of the way as we fight for liberation. And the way that we will honor your name is by continuing that radical work of dismantling and abolishing the systems and the culture that allowed for you to be lynched last year.
Thank you, Kennedy. Speaking truth to power. Naisha, if you could say something to your brother Joshua in front of your hometown of Tulsa, what would you say to him?
I would say that I love you, and you didn't die in vain, and mental illness matters. And even if it's one person that we can help change or make a difference, the Don't Hurt Them, Help Them Foundation will be that change. I would tell him that you didn't do anything wrong. In fact, it was your purpose to go the way that you did in order to save other lives and other souls. And we will continue to move in mental illness matters. So he did exactly what God had in store for him, is to be the front of mental health matters.
Thank you, Naisha, for that. Alyssa, if you could be in that apartment the moment before Amber Geiger came in, not that you could change the outcome, but if you had that last time to talk to your brother, what would you have said to him?
I think there's so much that I would have liked to say to him. I know one thing is that I love you. It's something we did after every conversation, and our last conversation on September 6th, we spoke about everything until he entered his apartment. And when we hung up the phone, I thought, damn, we didn't say, I love you. And I was gonna call back, and I said, well, I'll speak to him tomorrow. And tomorrow never came. So I would tell him I love him. I would tell him I thought his murder would have been a turning point in America, because an unarmed, innocent black man killed in his own apartment, minding his own business, I thought that would have been a wake-up call for police officers, but it wasn't, because we had a Tatiana Jefferson killed in her home, Breonna Taylor killed in her home, and so many other people in between. But we're not done yet. I will for sure continue to fight, because I want my brother's death to mean something. I want so much good to come out of this, and I won't rest until we get it.
Thank you, Alyssa. Now, let's give another round of applause for Alyssa, for Naisha, for Kendrick, for Lee, and for Chief. I will tell you in conclusion, y'all can stand up with us.
And Brother Ben Crump.
Let's remember this, for Dr. Tiffany Crutcher and for the survivors of Greenwood, let's remember, and you all have heard me say this often, Dr. Martin Luther King said that the coward will ask the question, is it safe? He said expediency will ask the question, is it politically correct? He said vanity will ask the question, is it popular? But he said conscience will ask the question, is it right? And Dr. King concluded that there comes a time when one must take a position that's neither popular nor politically correct or not even safe. But there comes a time when one must take a position because their conscience tells them it is the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do to stand up for our children. It is the right thing to do to speak up for our children. It is the right thing to do to fight for our children's future. We have to fight for their future until hell freezes over. And then we have to be ready to fight on the ice, because that's how much our children need to know we believed in their future. That's how much our children yet unborn need to know that we believed Black Lives Matter. Thank you to the Terence Crutcher Foundation. Thank you to the Sisters of the Movement. Thank you to the Justice for the Greenwood Project. Thank you for these great panelists. And thank you to you all, Tulsa. The whole world is watching you this weekend. God bless you. Fight the power.